Good morning, Jamaica, and it's another Wednesday morning, so it's another morning for our post-cabinet press briefing. And today, I believe, is the best day of the year. September 18 is always the best day of the year, every single year. And so I say a special good morning today to everybody in Jamaica and also to everybody who is a Virgo and celebrating their birthday during this time. It's an exciting time of the year. And so this morning we have a special guest with us, and that's none other than Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, our Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, which is really the business ministry. He tells us that all the time, and we do know that he's done such fabulous work in terms of supporting the business sector in Jamaica, and it's really good to have a special edition of our post-cabinet briefing led by him, and not just led by him, but also where we are. We are at Itel this morning, and we, as an administration, we have always said that the work that we do should be promoted to everyone, and we need to tell Jamaica what we're doing. And so we do that every week at our post-cabinet press briefing, but it's also important that Jamaicans far and wide see what our ministers are doing, see what our agencies are doing. There's so many hardworking people across the public sector that are working day in and day out to make the lives of every Jamaican better. And what we're doing in taking post-cabinet away from Jamaica House sometimes is really to be able to engage with other people and to bring that message that you have an administration that is tirelessly working to improve Jamaica and improve the lives of every single Jamaican. There's some people I need to acknowledge. Shamil Bloomfield, the head of financial planning and analysis at Itel, and we want to thank Itel for their support. You know, we have a lot of call centers across Jamaica, and this facility that we are in this morning is absolutely amazing. And so I want to thank the Itel team for supporting us in this way, in inviting us and the media to come and do our cabinet press briefing here at Itel. And afterwards, we'll get a chance to see some of our call center workers. This is a sector that Minister Hill primarily has been promoting. He has been able to take the numbers significantly up from where they were when he took over as minister. And so for us, it's an honor to be here at Itel this morning. I also want to acknowledge the CEOs, heads, and representatives from many organizations that are here today, from the Cannabis Licensing Authority, JAMPRO, the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, the Trade Board Jamaica, the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, JANA Global Accreditation, and Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority. I also want to acknowledge the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Sancia Bennett Templer, for being here, someone who I know quite well, who taught me a lot about government in my previous life. It's good to have her here too. And I also know that we have members of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students also here with us listening to the work that's being done by the government. And of course, as always, members of the media, every week we're here to take the questions from you. So welcome again, and thank you for coming on this journey with us and leaving Jamaica House and coming out to Itel this morning. And of course, to Jamaicans watching at home and abroad, good morning to you all. And so I usually start with a few updates, and I have a little problem because I really want to have Minister Hill have all of the show, and I have a long list of things that are going on across government, but I am going to only choose a few of them to highlight this morning. And the first one I will speak to is the NHT special moratorium. The NHT, any NHT contributor and mortgager impacted by Hurricane Beryl, we're reminding you to apply for their post-Hurricane Beryl moratorium by September 30. So if you're having difficulties, facing any difficulties, you can apply for a moratorium on the repayment of your loans. Last week, I also spoke about a loan facility, a facility that's there that you can access in order to build back your home if you've been affected by Hurricane Beryl. And so we're also reminding you that even if you don't need a loan to rebuild, you can also request a moratorium on the payment of your NHT mortgage. And so that again is the government saying, we understand that there are many people who are affected by Hurricane Beryl, and we have to do all that we can to support. And so remember, by September 30, please apply for that NHT moratorium. Another thing I would like to point out, because it's something that is very important to the administration, and that has to do with access and ensuring that every Jamaican, irrespective of their ability, is able to feel a part of government and a part of our society. And so in terms of our legal aid disability training, 56 attorneys at law, legal aid providers, and justice service professionals from the Ministry of Justice have successfully completed a 6-week training course in Jamaican Sign Language and Deaf Culture. And so they completed the first level of a specialized sign language course developed by the Jamaica Association for the Deaf. And as I said, what this means is that those who are providing legal aid to many of our citizens will now be able to communicate with those from the deaf community. And this again is us saying nobody in Jamaica should ever be left behind. And so even our justices or people who are helping to administer justice understand that. And they're putting in place the steps in order to make that a reality. The other thing I will note too is in relation to garbage disposal, which is an issue that constantly comes up. Residents of St. Thomas are to see an improvement in their garbage collection services with the addition of 4 new tipper trucks to the fleet of the MPM, Waste Management Limited. These new vehicles will play a key role in improving the efficiency of waste management in the parish, particularly in the transportation of bulk waste. And we know these tipper trucks are really suited for the bulky waste, which includes large debris, construction material, and other oversized items that regular garbage trucks may struggle to accommodate. And this is important in St. Thomas, because there's a lot of development taking place in St. Thomas. And so there's a lot of bulky waste that is being created as we see this transformation of this parish, which was seen by many as a forgotten parish. But this administration has not forgotten St. Thomas, and we're giving it the proper respect that it requires and doing quite a lot of developments there, and also putting in place the mechanism so that we can clear away debris as this development goes forward. The other one I would note is in terms of Portland coffee farmers. When we speak about Hurricane Beryl, we tend to speak about those who were affected on the south coast. But we did have others who were affected by Hurricane Beryl. And under the leadership of Minister Floyd Green, coffee farmers in the Buff Bay Valley area of Portland have received essential support from the Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority as a part of the ongoing recovery efforts following Hurricane Beryl. And so several of our coffee farmers were supported through the provision of herbicides and fertilizers to help them to get back on track. Another important one, which I know Minister Hill will like in terms of his general mandate, is the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, in collaboration with the Port Authority of Jamaica, is advancing plans to implement a maritime single window to streamline the clearance processes for ships arriving at Jamaica's ports. Now, this move aligns with Jamaica's steps to join the Convention on the Facilitation of Maritime Traffic, which mandates the use of a digital platform for ship clearance. And so this single window will improve efficiency, reduce emissions, and eliminate paper-based systems, reducing ship waiting times. And of course, this is all a part of our general effort towards positioning Jamaica as a key logistics hub in the world. The last point I will make is in relation to social housing program. I told you I have a long list, and the list is very long, but I'm going to stop with this one. The Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, handed over 3 additional housing units on September 6, 2024, under the government's new social housing program. And this is a key initiative aimed at improving housing for the vulnerable Jamaicans that we see across every part of Jamaica. And the units that were done and handed over were in Callaloo Mews, Lad Lane, and Barbican Road, and this is being done across the country. And so the social housing program has so far provided over 251 housing units, with an additional 61 that are under construction or ready for handover. So we'll be seeing many more handovers of these social housing solutions to our vulnerable Jamaicans across the country. And so those are our updates. Again, there's a lot going on. There's so much that our ministries are doing, that the administration is doing, and we continue to work on a number of these areas in order to facilitate the prosperity, really, of all of our citizens. I'm now going to move over to our guest, our special guest this morning, who I am so very happy to have here today, is Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, our business minister, who will be speaking to you about what is happening in his agencies. He has tons of agencies. They're all working very hard. They're all here. And I know he's going to struggle with what does he say, but he will do his presentation, and afterwards there'll be plenty of time for questions. And I will also come and take other questions that the media may have. Thank you. Minister Hill, please join me here.
What a lady, has lots of energy. My heavens, she come out really dressed up and energized this morning. I'm very happy to be here, especially in this building. I know it well. As Minister Morris Dixon has said, I've been very involved with the BPO sector. I remember in the pandemic, I was in MEGJEC at the time, where well, you're in OPM now, but I was in MEGJEC, and I used to take calls late in the night from people in California. Remember, we had this problem with when it broke out with that particular agency, and they called me, and of course I had to be dealing with the people here, the BPO Association. But what we were able to do, and especially the Minister of Finance, I had to talk a great deal with Minister Clark to arrive at the work from home process that really, really changed and made sure the BPO sector, as far as I know, is the only sector that kept growing right through the pandemic, because we came up with the work from home project. I was very much involved in that. But I say that about this building because I watch Melanie Subrati, who was until recently the chairman of JAMPRO. I watched her build this building. This building was built by a woman. And Melanie has built a lot of big buildings and fancy buildings and halfway tree and around Jamaica, because that's what she does at Stanley Motor. And so they built it, purpose-built for Itel, and of course Itel moved in. I came to the opening. The Prime Minister opened this building. And so right along, the Andrew Holness administration has been very involved in making sure that the BPO sector, a growth sector in the Jamaican economy, continued to grow even through a worldwide pandemic. But I want to tell you how I see the ministry working. Prime Minister Holness gave me the privilege of leading this ministry in early 2022, I think January. And when I looked at what we have, I said, we have 20 agencies. Now, they're probably going to rap me for this, but I ran banks, so I'm used to divisions. So I know, and of course, in the bank, a division head's a powerful person. They get paid well, lots of benefits. Just saying. Minister Morris Dixon can attest to what I've just said. So I came in, and what I found was frankly, because of how government works, each agency looked to me after I looked around 2 or 3 months that each was a ministry by itself. They were silos, hardly ever talked to each other, never realized that you're in one boat, and I just kept on. I wouldn't stop. You are in one ministry. I wanted to see that every single letterhead that went out had the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce on it, along with the agency's letterhead and their logo. Some of them have changed to make sure they get better, but constantly saying that we're so much better. I mean, I see the bright people who run these agencies, the experienced people who run these agencies, and they weren't sharing the experience. And they didn't even follow each other on social media. Some of them didn't even have a good social media place. So we brought that in and make sure that I think in the past 2 years, people who have been watching the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce would have noticed that there's a difference to the way we try to do business, and I make it absolutely clear. I'm going to tell Jamaica, all of you can understand, this is what I believe. I want the ministry and its agencies to be the kind of place where excellent people find it easy and wonderful to work. And those who are mediocre or less will find it a lot less comfortable. So my job, the PS job, the head of agency job, is to make sure we make it a place where you're accountable, but bright and excellently performing people find it to be a very good place to be. So who are they? Trade Board Limited, Dr. Hugh is here. Bureau of Standards, Dr. Velt and Goodness here. All of our doctors. Dr. Hugh is a doctor. Dr. Velt and all of them. All of our doctors. Lawyers too. You too. So, in other words, really what we're looking for to have government run well is people who are capable. We have the Hazardous Substance Regulatory Authority. You probably don't even know what that is. We have many people don't know that we have a nuclear reactor at the university. We are the only country in the Caribbean, Latin America, that has I think that has clearly the United States and Canada have a nuclear plant, a small one. But out of that, we have Dr. Riley, another doctor, whole heap of doctors, I told you. Jamaica Business Development Corporation. Now, she has earned 5 doctorates since she's been there the past 20 odd years. Everybody knows Valerie. It's Valerie Vieira, Mrs. Vieira. And she heads JBDC, Jamaica Intellectual Property Office. Lily Claire, always in Switzerland. She and the PS, luckily I don't have to approve those. The PS has to approve her trips. Gone over there to negotiate Marrakesh Treaty, Madrid Treaty, all kinds of treaty to make Jamaica better. We just did the Marrakesh Treaty, had it launched a couple of weeks ago, and what that does is for people who are visually impaired or otherwise impaired can read documents that they can't see. Okay? And if you can't hear, we have an arrangement for you to hear as well. So the Marrakesh Treaty is very vital to Jamaica. I know people in the Senate and the lower house wanted that done. We got it done. Thank you, Lily Claire, for getting that to us and out to many Jamaicans. Now your job is to police it, that it works for all Jamaicans. So we have JIPO, which is Jamaica International Intellectual Property Office. JANAC, which is now JANAC Global Accreditation, which was formerly known as Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation. Now, JANAC, when I came to the ministry, I knew nothing about JANAC. I didn't even know the acronym. True. And they brought in Sharon May to see me. I said, Laura, I want to hear about JANAC. Sharon May and Lily Claire are forces of their own. and Sharon May came in, and I got in 10 minutes an education, and the PS will tell you, I never unhook my hook in Janak. I saw that as a growth area for the government of Jamaica. I found out that Janak serves 11 countries, including Jamaica. I found out that Janak is authorized by the FDA to accredit labs that can do testing that are acceptable to the FDA and 2 other international bodies. So she rightly changed the name from Janak to Janak Global Accreditation, because we have in Janak an export service facility. Janak earns all their money to run their business. So I like that agency. I love all of them. But so Janak is there. So we have that running down very quickly. Jamaica Promotions Corporation needs no introduction. That's DRAMPRO. The Cannabis Licensing Authority also needs no, although a newer agency, don't need any explanation, and we'll be talking more, I'm sure, about the CLA later on. Consumer Affairs Commission, very active, has been active before Beryl out there. We had a meeting this week, got a briefing to see if the allegations that are being laid by some people that there's price gouging is actually happening. So we're trying to get the data. We can talk about that later on. We have the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority. Mrs. Allen runs Consumer Affairs. Cannabis Licensing Authority. The CEO is Ms. Farah Blake. And Jamaica Promotions Corporation, of course, is Shulette Cox. The Special Economic Zone is run by Kelly Dawn Hamilton. Anti-Dumping Subsidies Commission, Mrs. Andrea Marie Dawes. Not all of the heads are here. Companies Office of Jamaica has to be here. I think she is. Mrs. Shelley Leon. And Fair Trading Commission, which is going to be merged with the CAC. Mr. Miller heads it, but Ms. Allen is here representing them both this morning. Jamaica International Financial Services Authority. I'm going to talk about that. That's a growth industry for Jamaica. You don't know very much about it. I have carried the bill through the Senate. It's now waiting to be passed, and I've asked Minister Clark to make sure he gets it through the lower house before he leaves, because I want GIFSA to be up and running. I'll tell you more about it in a bit. National Certification Body of Jamaica, NCBJ, which is in the BSJ, National Compliance and Regulatory Authority. They go out and test the food that you get or should eat or whatever. And Mrs. Dr. Brown, Dr. Loris Brown is here. Navinia Ford runs the NCBJ, not the bank. National Export and Import Bank of Jamaica. Exim does a lot of work. Mr. Barnaby is here or might be here. Food and Storage Prevention and Infestation Division. I bet you didn't know that there's an agency like that in the ministry. They look after your food testing, make sure no rat get in there. If rat get in there, they condemn it to make sure they're protected. Another, Dr. Roy McNeil, runs that. We have a whole heap of doctors. Chairperson, the Competitive Department of Cooperative and Friendly Societies. Mr. Errol Gallimore heads that. Office of the Government Trustee, Mrs. Nicole Pinnock Brown heads that, and the Office of the Supervisory Insolvency, Mrs. Fiola A. Evans Roberts, she heads that, and I'm doing a joint select committee in Parliament about that. That's broadly a great deal of what we put together to say this is the business ministry. So what are we looking at? We're putting BSJ, JANAC, NCRA together for the national quality arrangements to make sure that our standards are high, and when people want to come and invest in Jamaica, they know that they're coming into high standards. But I want to talk about something that I have started that's very vital to me. When I came into the ministry, about 2 months after I came in, the trade numbers for 2021 came out. if I remember correctly, we imported 5,970 million, $5,970 billion. We exported 4.144, a little number. You had 4-odd billion negative trade balance. Popped my eyes. Couldn't believe that that's how bad it was. So I said, all right, like, love the numbers. I said, all right, Mr. Research, Mr. Hyatt, give me the numbers from 1960. We're in 2022. So 61 years of independence have gone. I got the numbers, and of those 61 years, only 1 year we had a positive trade balance, way back in 1966, when sugar and bauxite were doing well. For the rest of the 60 years, we've had a negative trade balance. Now, I want to tell you that because more and more you're going to hear me talk about, as we go, we've now looked after our economy. Our currency is stable, debt to GDP is going in the right direction and near to where we want to go. How are we going to grow? We are going to have to, because, we have to look after government employees, we have to build hospitals, we have to build roads, we have to build schools, renovate schools. Local government, where are you going to get the money from? We have to grow. So I looked at that and realized that unlike the debt to GDP, which was talked about from 2012, come on down, we never stopped talking about it until we manage it. When last have you heard, even the journalists, people talk about export, we must export. Well, I've been doing it for a year and a half, thereabouts, or maybe 2 years now. But you have to get it in your psyche. This is why we only have 3 million people. The replacement birth rate is at 1.9. To keep your population steady, not growing, you have to be at 2.1 replacement. So we're below that number. So in 25, 30 years, we're not going to have 6 million people at that rate, meaning born in Jamaica. So we're not going to have a 350 million people market like the United States. So if we don't have that, what are we going to do? We are going to find markets. The traditional ones, do they have any drinks around here? No liquor, please. I mean, little water, juice. I'd like some. So, just to make sure, then when I start answering the question, Minister, they don't listen. Look, him drink and him gone, him mad, him turn mad. so we are at that place where we have really limited population, but there's something else. Bahamas has a per capita GDP. If you split up all the GDP in Bahamas among all the people, each one again get $34,000 US. Trinidad has a per capita GDP about 25,000. Barbados is about 20,000. Grenada has 10,000. Domrep has 10,000. You know where we are? We are just north of 6,000, just below 7,000 actually. But we have been about 4.5 to 5.5 for about 20 years. Not growing. So if we have a small per capita GDP and we have a small population, the only way we're going to grow is if we go and find foreign markets. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much, sir. So we're going to find foreign markets. We've been many trade missions. I'll talk about that if I get a question on it. Where we've been, I know we've taken hundreds of executives, owners and executives, senior executives of companies. We've taken 121 companies since October 2022 to different cities, different countries, including Spanish-speaking ones, which we have never been to before, because we have to find new markets. I want you to understand that the strength of the management of the economy has put us in a position to grow. But if you keep just reducing your debt, you will not grow. You're going to have to grow. So all of us have to get in there in the growth business. But there are other issues that we don't have to be discouraged. I looked at the paper last week. A bottle will be better. I can manage the bottle better. So, I look at the paper, same paper. Look at this. Wisynco meets summer demand and expanded capacity. Know what's the bottom line? The line below it, exports to take center stage. About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, I met William McFood at a British High Commission event. And he took me aside, he was with one of his senior partners in the company, and said, we are going to invest $11+ billion in this country because we believe that we can do well. Now, the paper says invest over 11 billion. And I've been out there and it is fantastic. They make them water, they make them energy, they employ a whole heap of people, and they're exporting. Stephen Dawkins, Kelly Dawn, Stephen is the head, the vice president for export. Stephen has been at least 3 of our missions, developing new markets with us. And again, when I take missions, the business people pay their airfare, the hotel, there's no subsidy from the government. The PS would run me out of our office if I bring up that issue. So then I see Tankwell, boost exports to region. I see Juicy Patties expand in Florida. Going to New York. Is there one paper now? What, which one? Jamaica Observer, it says here. Rhino, Jamaica. Can you imagine them people here who make the black tanks? I think that's a black tank. Rhino, Jamaica, championing water security and selling across the Caribbean. Yes, all at the same time. So I bring them to say the message is getting out. And people are recognized because as you get big as Wisynco, where are you going to go? Jamaica Brawlers Group, a company I was associated with as a board member. We took them to Trinidad and Domrep. They had problems there for years, couldn't get the chicken in. I had a meeting with my counterpart, Mrs. Gopiskun, that's her name, yes. And she was so accommodating. Opposite to everything you hear, I heard about Trinidad. And soon, Jamaica Brothers Group got their things in there, and we had other people Grace got their milk in there, and Shillette and Jampro, on the mission, negotiated on the mission, it was done. So it's important that we're looking at that as we look at growth. Then which areas are we looking to grow? Logistics hub. Sugar is gone, banana is gone. We have to use the land well. Land is right next to the port. Came on as a special economic zone, 580 acres, looking for a master developer. We've been selling it. We had a very good set of receptions in Colombia for all kinds of good reasons, and we expect those to happen. Orchard crops. I have Jampro prepare orchard crop investment presentation ready to go for avocado, for ackee. Goya would want to buy from us at least 20 40-foot containers of ackee per 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We could only sell them one when I was in Miami. You know why? Because just like mangoes and breadfruit flour, which is non-gluten, no gluten in it, for all those people who are fancy about that, and lots of people are, and we're happy to sell them. We don't plant enough breadfruit. For a long time we have looked at, because agriculture was such a problem with sugarcane and so on, investors have gone away. Well, we're looking to get Jamaican ones back, diaspora ones back, and foreign investors to go into these areas. So that's an area of growth. That's just a little part of agriculture that Minister Floyd Green, you're going to hear a lot more of, because Minister Dix knows that's just a discussion that's been in cabinet and elsewhere. The BPO, KPO, that's knowledge processing, outsourcing, ITO, are areas that we must look at to grow, and we're making sure that we get the technical skills. We're going to look at GIFSA. What is GIFSA? the Jamaica International Financial Services Authority. So we're looking to say, look, Cayman, when I look at the per capita GDP, Cayman doesn't have a place to put one tub to make anything. So they don't make nothing. Services. I look at Turks and Caicos. I look at Bermuda, BVI. And you know who running their services? Bahamas. The Bahamas makes $2 billion a year from those services. I think Bermuda is very close to the same number. And you know who running them? Many of them are Jamaicans. So we're changing the law to make sure limited partnerships, LLC, and so on can be done easily in Jamaica. Many of those Jamaicans will come back home to good jobs, but it's a growth area. Where is Ricky's right there. Ricky can tell you more about it in another time, but I want you to know that that's an area that we're looking to grow. We're looking also to make sure that we get more out of the. We'll be working with Minister Favour Williams. We invest. Education is the biggest investment of the budget, apart from Minister of Finance, which takes care of the debt and the interest. So they're big, but $155 billion. I know Minister Williams, Favour Williams, is pushing hard with the Prime Minister for STEM. I'm pushing hard for STEM everywhere I go, grow that. I just met a young man this week from, well, I know his parents very well, but I saw him on TVJ this week. He had got 9 CXC 1s and 6 CAPE 1s, physics, ADMAT, this, and he's looking to go to MIT, and I've been saying yes, look at Caltech as well, because he's capable to go to any of those. And I wish him well. But a lot of STEM arrangement is going on, and if we're going to get the service, if we're going to export the services, because if we have 3 million people, it's not going to be a major manufacturer like China. It's going to have to be a major service country like Liechtenstein and Singapore, which is a manufacturing sort of, but let's say Switzerland, where a lot of services are sold, and we can do that. We're next to the biggest market. Trained Jamaicans, Sharon May does all that stuff. We're just going to have to do it. So, Minister Dixon, I think I've talked enough. They can ask me any questions. I have lots of things. If you have no question, just fine. I can talk for another half an hour. So if you don't want any questions, if you have none, I'm fine.
They want that camera on you, so you have to go to that.
I want that one? Okay. I'm being moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Hill. That's a different kind of presentation than we're used to at post-cabinet press briefings. Naomi, I'm going to hand over to you to take the questions from the media at this point.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Minister Hill, for your very comprehensive presentation. There is a particular radiance today, especially about Minister Dixon, especially because, too, of the Virgo glow, so to speak. We do have 2 representatives from the media, and I've asked, too, that as opposed to sending in questions, they really need to physically be here. So let me start with Mahiri, who is here from Nationwide. Mahiri?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News here. Senator Hill, can you give us a bit more detail into some of the delegations that you've been on to foreign countries over, let's say, the past year? And is there anything that came out of those trips that you think could benefit the country moving forward?
I'm glad you asked that, Mahiri, and especially the second part. Anything that come out of that, because when you take a trip, people immediately say, hey, what you get out of it? Well, I want to tell you something. When you take a business mission, any mission like that at all, you're not selling something per se. I'm not taking a bottle of something to sell and then bring back something. So what we've been able to do is we've taken missions to Guyana. 3 times we went to Guyana. First time was in October 2022. We took 35 people then. Couldn't believe that we would get so many. The second time we took 73 people. The business people, and all business people, about 5 or 6 of us from government. John Pro primarily, Jaseza, myself. And they all paid for themselves. And we had, I don't know, hundreds of business-to-business meetings. We were very well welcomed. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Ashna Singh, who I know very well, every time I get him to speak to my delegation when we arrive. And he was always willing. Minister Edgehill, who is in charge of the works, and Guyana is changing fast, and that's a no-nonsense man. Saw him on video recently. He went there. Some guy was supposed to get the bridge fixed by August. People couldn't drive and fired the man right on the spot. He said, if you can get me to drive this bridge to go to the people who must use it, you can keep the contract. If you can't, you're fired right now. Fired he was. Different place. So we went to Guyana a third time. Took 61 people this time. Now that tells you here, people must see benefit in going. So let me tell you some of the benefits that they've seen. Miss Muncie, which I can now disclose, I couldn't disclose before, she said, I'm setting up the business, I don't want anybody in there yet. Miss Muncie went with her sons on the first trip, and she set up a business. She has a brand Home Choice for foods. And when I went back the third time, all the vans were wrapped. She had her office, people running, goods selling, and she was very, very happy. She went with us to London as well, to Wanis, where she got Wanis to distribute. Wanis is one of the biggest distributors of food, especially food from the Caribbean and Africa. In England, she got Wanis to take their products, and another company went with us that Wanis also took their products. So we have that. We look at Optimity. The ICT people, we took 6 people, as I said. I didn't know we had 6 at a time. When we went to Canada the next summer in 23, we had 16. The ICT people are where I see a lot of growth coming from. Optimity went with us. They got contract arrangements, set up company in Guyana. Resolve IT, set up company in Guyana and Trinidad, doing IT business. Optimity went with us to London, and from London got business in Dubai. And we see business expanding like that. We see something else. When I went to Colombia, I went primarily for investors. Colombia is going through a political transition. Anytime you have political transition, there's opportunity. So we went there, we took an architect. The architect has been asked to find hotels for them and land and so on, because clearly capital is looking to move. We're happy that Jamaica will be one of those destinations. So that's good to see you. So we have people who go in, as I said before, big companies went with us, not just small ones, and we helped them too. But we see the change. What happens, Doma, here? Many of the people are about your age or a little older. So, when I got I was privileged to have my foreign exposure after I left business school, still very young. But most people don't get the foreign exposure until they're in their 40s and early 50s. These people that are going are younger people. So they have 20, 30 years to develop the export idea and move it on. So I'm not looking to say this is what we bring back this time. Yes, we got Jamaica Brothers Group to sell more, with Cinco to sell more, other big companies to sell more, Grace and so on. But we also want small companies to grow. And that's what is happening when we took them. So where do we go? Quickly, we went, as I said, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic, Miami, Florida, Toronto, New York, Washington, Suriname, Mexico, Colombia, and El Salvador. So we have gone to those places. We see that we have trade that's good for us from Guyana. We buy very expensive lumber from all over the place. Guyana and Suriname have all the lumber that we should want. Guyana has 215,000 square kilometers of land. Suriname has a whole bunch of hundreds of thousands of acres. We need to make sure that we collaborate with them. Let me tell you what I think of Guyana, why I've been there 3 times. Remember now, I lived in the Middle East for 21 years. I have financed oil. I remember going to India one Christmas Eve. India was in a very bad financial position, quite different from where Prime Minister Modi has taken India since 2014. Great country now and growing. And I was then at a Kuwaiti bank, and I had one deposit in the bank, because it's in Kuwait, of $600 million. India was having problems, Zambia was having problems, Brazil, finance oil to Brazil, because Brazil had Welsh and Chase and Citibank, they couldn't get any money. But because we had the oil in Kuwait and I had the money in the bank, we could do it because we know that Brazil know that if them didn't pay us, them dead, because no more oil. So we linked the oil and money, and we do that. We did that for India as well. India paid very well, but that was $250 million. One shot, one bank, no arrangement for syndication because we had the money. So I'm saying to you that having seen that, I know what's going to happen in Guyana. I see what has happened with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, and Guyana has 11 billion barrels of oil that they have disclosed. Exxon is leading the drilling arrangements. So Guyana is going to have a lot of oil to sell. We have a great relationship with Guyana, and we should therefore be looking to sell services and making sure we expand our businesses. So as soon as the legislation passes, Ricky, you go over there. Because we have the skills that they don't now have. They have 780,000 people. That's going to grow by 3 or 4 times in 5-7 years because the money is coming in. We must be there. They cannot, the draft in Guyana, Port Georgetown, is 4 to 6 meters. You can't take big ships in there. So where it must come from? Kingston, Special Economic Zone. You guys get together, talk it up, and make sure people invest, because all the break bulk will have to happen here in Kingston. Might happen in Florida, but why Florida? Bring it here. So we need to get that done as a growth area. Those are just, I won't even tell you about some of the odd things that we're thinking about, what's down the road. But I think, Mihari, that we have taken, I think the numbers here tell me we took 184 different business people, 121 different businesses from Jamaica on these trips. This is the way to go, because we're going to have to grow through export.
All right, that was a very comprehensive answer. I think you answered many questions.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Question to Dr. Morris Dixon. Is
Sure.
there any update you can give us on the ATI tribunal?
Okay, thank you. And thank you for that question, because as you know, I'm here every Wednesday or Tuesday. Last week it was a Tuesday, taking questions on any matter. And so it was a little bit surprising for me to see an article on the ATI tribunal by the media when I was here and no one asked me about it. So thank you this morning for asking me about the ATI tribunal. The ATI tribunal needs to be established. Its term had ended, and you have to find out if the old members of the tribunal want to still remain on it, and also look at whether or not you want to refresh it. And so that process was ongoing, and now I can tell you that we have decided on the names of some individuals, but as with many of our tribunals, you have to have the support of both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. And so where we are now, the list that has been proposed has been sent to the Leader of the Opposition for his comments. And so once we hear back from him, then we can move it forward. So we're in the process of having the ATI tribunal in place. It's a very important tribunal for Jamaicans who don't understand what it is. We have this legislation, which is the Access to Information Act. So if anyone wants information on something government related, they can use that provision to ask, or you could just come here to PostCav and ask, and if I can answer, I can answer it. But there is a provision for anyone to request information from a government entity, and there's a process that is in place. There are some caveats, though. Obviously, there's some sensitive security information or other information that cannot be shared, and sometimes an entity, a government entity, may respond in that way. But it doesn't end there. So even if an entity says, no, because of this provision, you cannot get the information, the law says that there can be a tribunal that you can appeal to. And so this is actually a part of the government saying, we're open for you to ask any question. And it's not just for the media, it's for any Jamaican. When I look at the list of individuals who ask, they're ordinary Jamaicans who write and ask for information. And so it's important that we have the access to information framework in place, and it's something that we've had many discussions over many years about whether or not we want to change it and amend it, and that's something that I'm looking at. But it is important. It is important that people have access to the information of the work of the government. Nothing that we do is private. It is all open to scrutiny.
Thank you for that, Minister. And just to ensure that there's no mischief as well, last postcap there was a question concerning the AI task force and whether we had gotten
before.
that.
Yes, right. Okay. So that was 2 weeks before a member of the media had asked me about the AI task force, that's artificial intelligence task force that I had established last year, and they had a deadline of getting me their report in August, and I reminded them of that. They were a little bit late. And I'm very pleased to say that I did get their report last week, and I've gone through the report, and we will be taking it to Cabinet. So I'll be able to report on it at a post-Cabinet press briefing, and my plan is actually to bring the chair of the AI task force to a post-Cabinet press briefing to talk about what the report said and how they see us actually navigating this space. And a lot of Minister Hill's entities are going to be very integral in this, because we truly believe that our children have to be a part of the world where it is going. And AI is a big part of that. And so that task force has looked at our education system, what needs to change there. It has also looked at, in terms of our businesses, how we can harness AI better. And also in terms of government policy, because every new technology has disadvantages to it. How do we mitigate against the negatives that come with AI, and even looking at the ethics around AI and how Jamaica navigates AI in the international space that is currently developing legislation around it. So I'm happy that they've done it, and I think it's a good thing. You have many of these bodies, task forces that are constituted, and they take years to give you their report. I'm glad to say they were only 1 month late, and they did have an excuse, and so I'm very happy that they have submitted it.
Thanks, Minister. There's a question. We do have some guests from the tertiary.
The Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. Yes. They are here. And again, thank you for being here with us. As I said, if you want us to come to do postcap at your place, you can tell me, and we'll try to make it happen. So if you have a church or anything and you want us to come, we will.
So I'll get to the question from the representative there, but there's one question I see online for Minister Hill concerning the issue of printing prices to ensure that consumers can get the. I think we had that in our lexicon before this. Is there any plan to resume printing out prices for consumers to see?
Well, it's interesting that you ask here, because all the decision makers are here. And Miss Dulcie, you print out, and that big sheet every month is in the newspaper. What has happened? I remember when it used to be a lot bigger. So every now and again you'd give them a one-page dollop for me, you see. So maybe every time you give it out months, 2 months, 3 months, and then you give them a big one, whop them. So with a big one, but no, we do publish still. I could say that quite confidently, because as I told you earlier this week, I met with Mrs. Allen and the PS and others to discuss what's happening in the marketplace for prices. Yes, but we do advertise, and we will make it bigger. But importantly, I want to make sure Therese, Roxanne, all the people from the ministries, communications, make sure it is everywhere. Social media everywhere, because many people don't use the normal conventional press anymore. By law and convention, we probably continue. But really, you have to have it on social media. So make sure. So from your mouth to their heart, it's going to be done.
Well done, Minister,
All right.
because we are into the social media
Say it
era.
again.
And on apps,
And
too.
they have it on app.
right.
But you're going to
Well
make
done.
sure everybody know the website. Everybody know, but that's for old people.
Thank you, Minister. All right, let's go then to the question from the student. Yes, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Wyoming Hopkins, Director of Communications for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. And my question is to both ministers. Can you highlight two emerging industries that young people are to be on the lookout for? I remember clearly you mentioned that there is a wide array of opportunities in Colombia with the politician change, and you mentioned oil and Guyana and so on like that. So as a young person who has varying interests and is planning to make sure that my future is cemented, what industries can I look forward to investing in, participating in, or even working within?
All right. May I?
Sure, go ahead. You're our guest this morning. Go ahead. I will answer after.
Here is how I would advise you to go about it. First of all, whatever you're studying, excel. I don't care if it's scripture. And I happen to love scripture. I'm not denigrating it, but people tend, turn up their nose at scripture until them get sick. So, anyway, so anything that you're doing, there must be only one standard, and only you can make that decision. Too many people want to see that somebody else must set the standard for them. After you pass 8, 10, 12, once you start going into a C-set, you have to decide that what I'm doing is going to be outstanding, must be excellent. You don't even remember the second man who went to the moon, but everybody remembers the first man, all if you're young like you. So second no count. So first of all, aim to be excellent. Then you look at, and you have all the information you can get now, not what we had, have a lot more. Where do you see the future is going? And you latch on to the future. That might be, funnily enough, depending on where you are, the future might be, we want to have furniture of exotic wood. People are building wonderful apartments and so on in Jamaica, and they don't want the run-of-the-mill, because some of the run-of-the-mill, if hurricane hit it, they'd swell up and get big and mash up and done. Wouldn't that not happen? No. Guyana has endless amount of wood. They have green heart, yellow heart, purple heart, all kind of heart. They have mahogany until you're tired. You go to Suriname, same thing. So you look at that. Then you might say you might be in the arts area, entertainment might be, but whatever you're going to do, and then I'm going to ask you to do something else. Develop a long breath. If you're lucky, you get a hit, but you have to remember the reason why Bolt is exceptional is because there's only one of him. Michael Jordan, if you were in basketball, and even if you weren't and you now know it, you know says one of him. So you will have to realize that you have to take a long breath for success to come to you. If you are very good, it comes much quicker than if you're not. So that's why I tell you first to be excellent. And then you look at, in Jamaica, I would be looking at, let's say I just told you about the fact that one of the biggest purveyors of food in the United States want 20 containers of ackee every 6 weeks. Go and talk to your mother and your uncle. By the time we finish, we might be able to get you some land through NLA, but nobody look and plant 5 acres. That can't cut it. Nobody even with 50. Go big. 500 acres. And you get your plan. Make Miss Valerie and her people work with you on the plan. And the government has the facility to help you. JAMPRO will help you work on the plan. Then you get one of your friends who's smart and at investment bank and let them look at the numbers for you. You get a plan together. Then you come into the ministry and we look at it and help you to find. The government is there to help you. Even the foreigners who come in, many times they go to the lawyers. And the lawyers, if they were to come to the agencies would save them a lot of money. Because the lawyers are telling them what's in the agency. And if they came to the agency first, so you come to the agency, come to the business ministry and say, I want to plant 500 acres of ackee. And you look like you're 16, they're going to laugh. Don't worry, make them laugh. When Sheikh Mohammed started to build Dubai, them say, my idiot, you don't have no water, you don't even have a palm tree. What Dubai? Oh yes, 25 years later, everybody wants to go there. So, be excellent, be focused, enjoy yourself. I'd suggest that you play tennis. It's a great game. So enjoy yourself. But, my dear, get very focused and do what you will. And pick a place. Talk to your friends. You don't have to tell them everything, but talk to them. You ask them a question. And then you see their answer and their reaction. And think about it. Or there might be something else that you see that is not necessarily cutting edge, but people want it. Look, whenever I was consulting, I look at the market need and start advising the company from its market need. If there's no market need and we can create one, I create a market need and then I build back the consultancy for it. So go look for some need that's not being filled and look, see if it has a future. Do your very best and get help. Last thing I want to say to you on this issue. One of the best creations of Western capitalism. And now everybody beat me down. I'm a capitalist. I run banks. So now they're complaining to me about I'm being a capitalist. I'm a capitalist. So one of the best invention of Western capitalism is the limited liability company. It makes sure I get a lawyer like Lily Clear that knows all about treaty and everything, and we get her in as a partner in my company. We get somebody who has money. We get an engineer who knows engineering. And by the time you're done, you have a good company putting together and you share the risk. And the limited liability means that the liability is limited only to the company. Then when you get the company get rich and you want to come out, you put it in the Jamaica Stock Exchange, one of the best run stock exchange in the world. You sell the shares, take the money, first start off in Montego Bay and then end up in Monaco on a yacht. Right. Minister Morris Dixon, over to you.
Thank you, Minister. And I know our time is running out, but the only thing I would add to that question, and the answer Minister Hill has given you a lot, is to think about technology. And even no matter what area you are in, absolutely, technology is going to reshape it big time. Everything. And so if you're in accounting, you need to look at what's AI doing in accounting, what's the newest avenues in that area. And I think that is going to be very important, and it will set you apart and set you for that future. I also say to a lot of young people, even those who are at university, also round out the rest of your skills. The most demanded jobs in this world are skills-based jobs. And our government has made skills-based learning free up to an associate degree. I have many individuals who are working in corporate Jamaica who are saying they need to go to Hart to do something else because they feel that those skills areas are going to set them up even further for the future. And so I say to you that look at all of these opportunities. As Minister Hill said, know where this world is going. We spend a lot of time on TikTok looking at crazy things, but there's also the internet. We can use it for good stuff. There's a lot of information on where this world is going. And if you look at the future industries, there are many studies on what are the future industries. You have to look at that and understand what you're studying and how that can dovetail with it, or how you can tweak what you are doing to dovetail so that you are at the front and the cutting edge of where this world is going. And so that would be my only addition to what Minister Hill has said.
Minister,
There we-
I know today is a very special day, but
Yes.
let me just squeeze one more in, actually, just for Minister Hill. So to fine-tune the question concerning printing of prices, the journalists really wanted to get, Minister, it'd be a good opportunity, too, for us to give an update on the investigation into the price gouging matter that was initiated by the Ministry of Agriculture. And also, Minister, if you could give an update on the Cannabis Licensing Authority.
All right. Price gouging. Price gouging is a term that is easily used when things get pricey. Well, because we had Hurricane Beryl, naturally we were told and we knew that our food products were going to go up. Things in St. Elizabeth, I was there on the 4th of July, the day after the hurricane, and I saw the devastation in St. Elizabeth. I'm from St. Elizabeth. But I also went to the Brown Brook opening on the North Coast, and I realized when I was coming back, there's a lot of fruits and stuff that is available now. Very often, they don't get across the parish lines, so we have to look at some of that. Price gouging involves a great deal, and we were discussing that this week, as I said. Price gouging happens a lot when you have goods that you're hoarding and won't release until the price goes up. Or you buy new stuff coming in and you really mark it up because it's you used to get 15 or 20%, and now you're getting 45 and 70%. The Consumer Affairs Commission is looking at that. You have to go to the warehouse, you have to see the invoices. It's not like you just go to the shop and say, oh, you're gouging, because you don't know what the cost is, or how long they have to store it for. And so luckily, we have been doing that before the hurricane. So we have lots of data from May and June to compare it with. And that work is going on. And we're out there and make it clear that we are checking. And I'm saying it right now. Nobody can question my commitment to be pro-business, unabashedly, unashamed. But I'm just as clear that if businesses aren't following the rules, the agencies I have and the authority that we have within the law will be used at full force. You cannot have an economic environment like this that is so business friendly and helpful to small and big businesses and consumers. We cannot, the spectrum stretches from the consumer to the producer and seller, and we cover that entire spectrum. And as the CSC goes out, if we find people who are price gouging, and I'm telling you now on national television, we are going to put the full force of the law at you, because we don't want that. We want it to be fair. There was one about, it was a very broad, so I'm going to start with an article that was written on September 9th by our good friend Mr. Jovan Johnson from the Gleaner, and in the middle of the article said, the concern is really to remove cannabis from the Dangerous Drug Act so that we can be facilitated easier. I think that's the encapsulation of much of what has been said. There are other things that have been said, so I'm going to try and address that. In 1961, the UN had a treaty that Jamaica clearly didn't attend then, we weren't independent. And that treaty was called the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, 1961. It became a treaty in 61. It was updated on the 25th of March in that 1972 protocol. March 72 conference, it was looked at again, and we agreed to that protocol. We didn't sign it then, but the government of the day, led by then Prime Minister Michael Manley, was part of that. We acceded to the 25th of March 72 protocol on the 6th of October 1989. Again, I think Prime Minister Manley was back in power, And cannabis ganja has then been a big thing around here for a long time. We know the sacramental aspect of it. But what I want to convey to you is that cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug. What does Schedule 1 means? It means it is very dangerous. It's in there with heroin, ecstasy, LSD, opium, morphine, all of them heavy stuff there. That's where cannabis is listed. And therefore, when it came about in 2015 that the Dangerous Drug Act was amended, there was a lot of euphoria and clearly considerable amount of hype. Not just here, Canada. Canada has a whole half of a continent, and boy, did they go and grow ganja. They grew it. Remember, a Canadian company went on Wall Street, made a big splash, and then a big crash. And I went to Ottawa about a year ago, and they still have ton loads of cannabis. And they, of course, Canada is big. They can sell cannabis at their shops, and their banks can handle it within Canada. But for instance, in the United States, there are 23 states, I think. They'll tell you that, oh, the states are doing it. Well, you know, Colorado can't send it to California. The ICC, Interstate Commercial Code, prohibits it. It's a federal item, and only the Fed can change it. So we can send our ganja over the American airspace. It's illegal. None of our banks will ever touch it until the feds change the law, because if they did, Bank of America or Citibank will never be their correspondent bank. That's why no banks here do it. It's a Schedule 1 drug. We did not stress that enough in the euphoria. But it doesn't mean, so when you hear me talk about cannabis, it's always, the adjective is medicinal cannabis. Germany will buy some, Australia will buy some, a few other countries, but it's not a huge, as it was made to be, huge market. But there are other concerns. This says the concern is really to remove cannabis from the Dangerous Drug Act so that we can be facilitated easier. But you know, there are other key players. I heard Dr. Lucian Jones on the radio recently saying, him don't want drivers to be smoking ganja and crashing and killing people. Why they're crashing so much, many of them smoking ganja. His words, paraphrasing, not mine. Then you have parents. Lots of parents don't want it to be so relatively easy available that their kids start smoking it from 11, 12, and the store. Parents are parents, and they vote. Then you have the health professionals. Them don't want to hear about it. Many of them don't. You can ask CLA, them don't want to hear about a thing about, they think that it's a dangerous drug and it's risky. But none of those considerations, none of those other constituents are brought into the articles that I've seen being written. So we have to make sure we understand that. The matter of the running of the CLA, I have to say that we respect everybody that works for us. But everybody must respect as well that the organization has to be run. Everybody can't have a voice in running it. And you have to follow the basic rules of good order and so on. And there are sometimes, frankly, when an organization needs to change its direction, and the best way we can do that is sometimes to change, when a contract comes to an end, is to let somebody move on. I think I'm going to leave that there. If there is anything else, I can deal with it.
Thank you so much, and that's the end of our time, actually.
Thank you very much, Naomi, and thank you, Minister Hill. We actually do have one other thing that we are going to be doing this morning. And Blake, you want to?
I can sit down.
You you can come off of the hot seat right now. And we do have a special guest. We're here at Itel. We are here in one of the best run call centers, right, in the world. And I'm looking at the executives here. And this has been such an important part of bringing jobs to our young people in Jamaica. And so we have Damali Wilson from Itel here with us. And she's going to talk just for 5 minutes about her experience as a young person in this industry. It's an industry we hear about. You hear different things about it. And so we're live on TV and live on YouTube and on other social media platforms. And so we want to hear from you about your experience, and then we will close out for today since we're here at Itel. So please welcome Damali Wilson.
Hi, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? All right, so my name is Damali, as would have been introduced. I am the Talent Acquisition Supervisor for Itel Kingston. And to even get into my experience, I mean, this is not the only BPO that I have worked, but this is really where my career started. I did start here as a customer service representative in 2019, and I was very good at my job. I did very well, so much so I got promoted in 2020 to the position of operations supervisor. Now, I was doing the thing. I felt like, all right, I was the best. I was putting in the work, and I went and applied for the position of operations manager in a temporary role, and I got through and I did the job. And why I want to bring this one up is mainly because this role I did not succeed in, and I wanted to mention that. I didn't succeed in the role. I was not doing my best, but I was resilient and I was able to move forward. And it helped me to find my passion and my career goal and figure out what I want to do. And I was so glad that Itel gave me the room to do it, that I got the opportunity to do that here. And so after moving out of that role, I realized my passion was people and helping people and guiding persons. So I went ahead and applied for a position in our talent acquisition department. And I mean, I didn't get it at first, but I put in the time, I volunteered my time, I was doing the thing, I was back on top of the job, right? And I finally got through last year, September, started as talent acquisition coordinator, and was doing the job, got promoted to talent acquisition specialist in a couple of months. February of this year, got promoted to talent acquisition supervisor. I mean, lots of promotions coming on, but that is my experience here, just showing the opportunity that the BPO industry can give you, that Itel has given me, and I'm glad for the position that I am in now to be able to give other persons that opportunity. And I mean, I would not be doing my job if I didn't go ahead and promote a job fair that we'll have coming up with Ministry of Labor on the 1st of October. That way because we love to give other people the opportunity to come here, to grow, to build a career. It's not just, oh, you come, you're an agent, and that's it. You can come and you can grow. And it's not just in operations. We have things in HR, we have things in marketing and projects. So I mean, I love the opportunity I've been given, and I'm glad to be giving other people that opportunity.
Thank you, Damali. That was really very helpful. And you heard all those promotions. She kept getting promoted, and even though she accepted that she failed at something, it didn't work out, that position didn't work out, but she kept going. And I like that you defined yourself as resilient. And it's always important, the words we say about ourselves and how we define our experiences. And you obviously have it. And I have to thank the Itel team, too, for understanding this talent and being able to allow her to grow on. So when we talk about the BPO sector, it's important that we understand it's not just about answering the phone. There are many careers. There's a career that can be built in this industry. And so this morning, while we're here at Itel, and you heard about the job fair in collaboration with the Ministry of Labor, There are jobs available in this sector. It's a growing sector, and know that there is room for our young people to grow in this industry. So thank you to Itel for hosting us this morning at our post-cabinet press briefing, and thank you all of Jamaica for watching. Thank you, members of the media, for coming along with us here to Itel today. And as always, we will see you again next week, Wednesday. God bless all of you, and God bless this wonderful land that we call Jamaica.
And may we take the grand opportunity, Minister, to wish you a happy birthday. Happy birthday.